You know that Tony was very calm in the office, and other times he was not so calm. And sometimes he had good days and bad days, but this is what it said from the desk of Anthony Gair. If I should die, only Chris should be permitted to speak at my funeral. We have to say, this is the guy that we love. This is the guy that we care about. This is the guy who meant so much to all of us. And I have to say, I have trouble looking down into a grave because we all want him back. So I like to think of it this way. I like to think that he is looking at all of you right now. And he's very happy that you're all here and celebrating his life, because we do choose to celebrate his life rather than crying at a funeral. But you can't help it. You definitely see something like this. For how long have we known Tony Gair? One of the things that I've done at the holiday parties at our firm is I've tried to recognize everybody. I spoke to Tony about this. Let's recognize everybody. Let's start a new tradition. Let's let everybody know how important they are by saying a few words about them. 43 years tomorrow would be how long Tony worked at the firm. Sharon gave me the information. I will tell you, it's really something when you think about that. 43 years that he spent with us, 43 years that he actually made our lives better, not just to mention the clients, the friends, the adversaries that he had. I can't tell you how many calls I've gotten from adversaries just talking about Tony and letting us know how important he was to all of them as well. And it really is something when we think about Tony and we think about the times that we had. Look around this place. Tony has a driver, Monty, who's here right now. He loved Monty as a friend. Think about this. He made him but a friend for life. And he's taken such good care of him. Thank you, Monty, for all of you. For Raul, our dear friend, Raul is like a brother to him. But there's a reason why. And the reason is that Tony never looked at people as having a title making a difference. It was race, religion, creed, color, sexual orientation. He could care less about that. If you were a friend of his, you were a real one. And I have to say, for Tony, it really was a privilege to work with him. I'll share a story that I actually had with Tony. One of the things I've tried to do in my career is to work with each of the attorneys in the office trying cases. I tried a case with Tony Gair in front of a judge by the name of York. Tony, if you see York, say hello. Judge York had a tendency to fall asleep during the trial. And I was trying the case with Tony against a lawyer named Alan Kaminsky. Some of you might know Alan. Alan was a classmate of mine and a good lawyer. We were trying a case, unbelievably, a dinosaur fell on our client's foot and crushed it. And yeah, the Museum of Natural History, a place I loved as a kid. So we're trying this case, and you can imagine a hot summer day, and Judge York is doing what he did best, which was sleeping on the bench. And Alan starts going off into something that was completely improper, and I object. And Alan smiles because he knows the judge is asleep and no one's ruling on this, and the jurors are kind of laughing. The judge is out. He's like a light. He is out. Tony, with this shit-eating grin on his face, says, "Sustained, move on." Alan said, "Are we really doing it this way?" Tony said, "Move on, counsel." That's Tony. You have to laugh at some of the things he did. But I will tell you, for those of us who knew him at the firm, for those of us who worked with him, this was a common event to see Tony's generosity. It was described by Chris, by Howard, by Chris Sally. He had a ferocity for life. He really did live that way, where he cared so much about people. I had spoken with Raul yesterday, and he was telling me about stories. I'll tell you two stories right now. One, which is typical Tony Gair. He had gone to dinner with Raul. They're going to dinner in New York City. A homeless person comes up to Tony and says, "Can I have $1 to get some food?" And Tony says, "No, you're coming with me." And Tony took him to dinner and told him, "You order whatever you want." And he did. He ordered whatever he wanted. But that's typical for Tony Gair, because that's who he was. He cared about people. He loved people. He wanted to help those that he could. And Tony, I know you're in there right now, but I hope you're looking down from above. I'll tell you another story that many of you don't know. There is a man by the name of Morris Dees. It might not ring a bell to many people, but Morris is a guy who actually founded something called the SPLC. The SPLC is the Southern Poverty Law Center. And Morris had an idea that he could put a group of people out of business. He could put the Ku Klux Klan out of business. If he could bring a case against them and actually get a money judgment in favor of the person who was so badly injured. And indeed, he did it and bankrupted the Ku Klux Klan. Well, there was a lawyer in New York who was giving money to Morris throughout the time, but never wanted his name mentioned. Just like Chris Sally said, just like Chris Donadio said, just like Howard intimated. Tony was all about letting others get the credit for the work that he had done, but he actually did this. He helped to put the KKK out of business. And isn't that amazing when you think about it? That's the effort that Tony Gair puts in behind the scenes. And he might not let people know what he had done, but we all do know what he did. And we all love Tony for that. As I look back and I think about all of you right now, and I know how touched you were in Tony's life. I know how much Tony meant to all of you and everything that he has done for all of you. I ask you to do this. As was said, when you have a tough decision to make, and sometimes you have to do something for someone else that might actually hurt you a little bit, but it'll make everybody else a little bit better, think of this guy right now, because Tony Gair would have made everyone's life better if he could. For Tony, the craziest thing about it is something that Chris Sally just alluded to. On Monday, instead of wanting to go to the hospital to get himself better, he's concerned about a deposition. This is what he wants to do. So, it's typical Tony. More concerned about someone else, about trying to take care of the client than himself. I feel honored to have worked with Tony, to have known him as a friend, to have shared these experiences with him. I hope there's another day not too far in the distant future when we can actually talk about some of the things that Tony did extracurricular. Because we do know that some of the activities there were as bright, as wild, and as ferocious as some of the things he did with his clients. So Tony, I'll conclude by saying this. On behalf of everyone who's here, and I know you're watching us, Tony, we love you, we care about you, we will miss you dearly. And there's a guy here who's like his brother, Raul. I do want to single you out, because I know that you care about Tony so much, just like losing a brother. And Raul, I know how much he loves you. I know how much he wants you to know. He still loves you. So for all of us, we say goodbye to Tony. And he might be gone, but we will never forget you, Tony Gair.